Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video, we've got a getting started with Age of Sigmar 3rd edition video for you, and today we're going to be looking at the cities of Sigmar, and in particular, Living City. So what we aim to do in this video is we're going to talk a little bit about what this army is, what we can do with it on the tabletop and how it sort of works, and then we'll look at how we can start off this army with a couple of units, and then we'll look at how we can expand it further with other units from the force that it has access to that sort of fit in the theme of what we're trying to go for. And lastly, what we'll do at the end is we'll put together a little sample army list for everyone to sort of see how it all comes together and how it can work on the tabletop a little bit. And you can use this sort of information to put together either your own list or maybe just steal our list here straight up. Go for that if that's what you want to do. But let's get cracking on with this, and so let's start by talking about what we get for Living City. Now, it is a Cities of Sigmar army, so we get all that generic sort of stuff. Let's talk about the details of what we actually get for Living City. And so the first thing we get is we get the ambush tactics. So we've got the ability where we've got the rule Hunters of the Hidden Path that allows us to put half our units in the army in reserve. These can pop in on a board edge within 6 inch of it or 9 inch away from enemy units. For every one that we put on the table, we can put one in reserve. This is pretty cool. It allows us to sort of just play around with where we can come on the battlefield. It gives us great maneuverability, gives us great ability to sort of, I guess, make counterplays towards threats that our opponents makes. It's really solid. And to add on to this, we've also got a shoot and move ability called Strike Then Melt Away. So this is a command ability. What happens is a unit uses this, they shoot, and then they can move. Now, this says strike, shoot, or strike and melt away the ability. However, you can move closer towards your enemy. So this works particularly great with, I guess, heavy hitting monsters and characters and units that have some ranged attack to allow them to get closer and make a really easy charge. Things like Spirit of Dirthu and other things we'll get talking about in just a second, but it works really great with them. The last thing, as I mentioned, you just noticed I said Spirit of Dirthu. Well, Living City get to have Sylvaneth Coalition units. This is cool. There's some great units in here that really do sort of work well with the Force, and especially if you're an old Wood Elf player from Warhammer Fantasy times, this video is definitely going to be for you, because I'm going to show you how you can build an old Wood Elf force and put together some of your old Wood Elf army. You can, you know, put your old Wood Elves together back with their Sylvaneth and have that full army once more. And so, where to start with this unit? Well, I think a great place to start is the Nomad Prince. He's a fantastic unit. So, straight up, he's got a 3-up save base, and, you know, he's got 4 attacks at Rend 1, damage 2. He's not too shabby in a fight. Like, he is a solid foot hero. If, you know, rating out of, like, compared to other foot heroes, he's pretty good, in all honesty. He's got a really cool ability with his Hawk, where he can sort of send it out to scratch the eyes and annoy his opponents, giving them -1 to cast, unbind, dispel, and hit is really, really solid. And all in all, he's just a great hero. He unlocks a lot of the Wanderer stuff in the army as Battleline as well, which is definitely going to fit our theme. And so the first unit I'm going to talk about is Sisters of the Watch. These are your Wanderer's Archers. Now, these are a pretty cool arch unit in the fact that they get a ability that allows them to freely use one unit of Sisters of the Watch in your army can freely use the Unleash Hell command per turn, which is really nice. This doesn't mean you get multiple Unleash Hells, because they still do use it. They just don't have to spend a command point and don't count as issuing or receiving it. So, pretty cool there. The additional benefit to your Sister of the Watch as well is the ranged weapon profiles do put out some mortal wounds. So Eldritch Arrows, every time they make a wound roll for an attack made with 6, it inflicts 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage, which is pretty nice. In addition to always great. You also get extra shots with this unit if they haven't moved and there's no enemy units near them, so they won't get this with Unleash Hell, but if you brought them on from the edge with the Hidden Paths ability, they don't count as moving because they're set up, not moved. So this means they're going to get the extra attack on those profiles. And lastly, the other unit I want to talk about is Eternal Guard. These are a great sort of bunker unit. They are really solid defensively, in all honesty. Eternal Guard have a great thing where if they choose not to move, now this means any sort of move, they can't pile in, they can't retreat, they can't do anything. They do get to add 1 to their saves and add 1 to hit and wound rolls. This puts them on a respectable 3+ save, and also 2s and 3s with their damage profile. They don't have any rend, but 2s and 3s with a lot of attacks, They've got a 2-inch reach, so they're going to get most of their models into a fight at all times, and especially this 2-inch reach definitely helps when you're using like your ability, your Fortress of Bowers, to not move, and so you've got that 2-inch reach to make sure you can get more fights and sort of do it a little bit better. A really solid defensive unit. So you've got a great offensive unit in your Sister Watch here, a good defensive unit in the Eternal Guard, and a pretty solid character in the Nomad Prince who unlocks them both as battle line. And so let's look at units we can bring into the force after our initial sort of purchases to sort of get some more out of the army. And the next unit we're going to look at is another Wanderers unit called Sisters of the Thorn. Now the cool thing about Sisters of the Thorn is they are a unit of wizards. That is, they can cast spells and dispel just as if they were a wizard, so long as they've got 2 models in the unit. And so they've got a really cool spell called Armor of Thorns. This is great for putting on our defensive units, things like Eternal Guard already. So, Armor of Thorns has a casting value of 7. If successfully cast, you pick one Wanderer's unit wholly within 18 inch of the caster and visible to them. Until that unit moves, the unit is treated as being in cover. So, effectively, it gets +1 save. In addition, until that unit moves as well, if the unit rolls a save roll for an attack with a melee weapon against it, and that roll is a 6, the unit attacking said unit with Armor of Thorns on it will take a mortal wound. So a great little bit of mortal wound bounce back. Really good if you can get, say, rerolls in there in potential some ways. But especially good on a unit that's going to be making a lot of its saves anyway. The next sort of combat unit I want to talk about is Wildwood Rangers. Now, Wildwood Rangers can be a little bit of a glass cannon, and they, I guess, are a little bit specific in what they do. But I've found some great use of them over the time, playing with the lot I have in my Wanderers army. So for starters, they are your basic sort of elite troop. They've got 2 attacks, 3's to hit, 3's to wound, red 1, damage 1. What's really cool though is when they're fighting monsters, they actually get a damage characteristic of 2. This really increases their damage output. Being a great unit, if you've got someone taking a lot of monsters in their army, a unit of Wildwood Rangers is a great shout for a unit. Most Wanderer units do get +1, and rather most Cities of Sigmar units as well do get +1 to run and charge. This is sort of the standard thing that banners and hornblowers give from Cities of Sigmar. So you can have these units arrive from ambush only needing an 8-inch charge, and there's ways you can increase that with, say, some endless spells, like things like giving you some extra movement and stuff like that, or rerolls to charge. There's a bunch of stuff you can do in the game to really help increase this. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the really cool trick you get to do with Cities of Sigmar. Now, I talked about how you've got Strike and Melt Away at the start of the video. What this ability does, it allows you to shoot and then move after you shoot for the command point. Now, there's some really cool, powerful monsters that have shooting attacks that can use this, come on from ambush, shoot, and then make a move after that and charge from a really close range. Things like Spirit of Dirthu is really cool. He's got a 5-inch move, so this means he can get a 4-inch charge after he shoots with his shooting attack. But other great shouts are the Drakespawn Templar, who has a bow profile he can use, or the Dreadlord on Black Dragon, which is allowed to take a ranged weapon as well. There's some great options here. Remembering, if you want to use this from an ambush one, you do need to have a unit that has a 10-inch or more ranged weapon, because a 9-inch one won't count this on there. But you also can do this with some of your other units, so things like Sister of the Thorn can come in, shoot, and then move away. Or another great thing you can do is when you've got ranged units, you can shoot, then move in, hoping to get the double turn, or potentially taking objectives and stuff like that on the table. It's a really great ability. But the monster ones to use and get these sort of powerful monsters in combat is definitely something really cool to play around with, and have a look at some of the monsters you do have access to that can do these sort of tricks for you. And so lastly, here we have a little sample army list I put together so we can sort of see how a little Living City army can come together. So we're going to be obviously from the realm of Gairan, because that's where Living City is, and we're going to have the grand strategy Predator's Domain. The reason I've gone for this grand strategy is with the ability for us to sort of do the ambushes around the table. It's really easy for us to sort of control a lot of terrain pieces on the table. Triumph-wise, there's a couple of ones you could definitely use. Bloodthirsty is definitely a great one if you're going to have more combat units. We haven't got that many in this, so I've gone for Inspired, the +1 to wound, though The re-rollable battle shock is pretty cool because cities do rely on their command points a little bit, so not having to spend them on a battle shock test is really useful as well. And so we've got a Nomad Prince who's going to be our general. It's going to have the command trait, Iron Oak Artisan. This gives him +1 save and +1 wound. Pretty solid command trait. And he's got the artifact Amulet of Destiny. This means our Nomad Prince is going to be on a 2-up save with a 5-up ward. Really, really solid little 5-wound character there. We've then got 10 Sisters of the Watch, who are going to be our honoured retinue, and this is going to be the unit he comes on the board with. We're going to effectively bring our Nomad Prince and a unit of Sisters of the Watch on the board as sort of a little damage-dealing piece that we can use to sort of pinpoint and sort of eliminate a threat. Remembering that Nomad Prince isn't going to be too bad in combat by himself. Now we're going to have 10 other Sisters of the Watch on the battlefield as well. They're going to be a unit we use to sort of a little bit more ranged firepower, so we're going to use these guys as sort of a more defensive block at the back of the field. And then we've got 10 Eternal Gun, 5 Sisters of the Thorn, which will form sort of a main sort of objective holding presence for the army. The Eternal Guard and Sisters of the Thorn can work together, our opponents pressing our own lines, but once we've sort of weathered the storm from our opponent's owner's attack, both the Eternal Guard and Sisters of the Thorn, especially the Sisters of the Thorn, can move away and go do their own thing, enabling them to sort of take objectives and move up the field later in the game. Everything in this army is wrapped up inside a battle regiment, which is a 1-drop. And then we're 725 points out of 750, meaning there's a good chance we're going to get that triumph. No allies and no reinforced units and 45 wounds is pretty solid and pretty sort of standard there. 1-drop as mentioned thanks to the grand strategy. If you're playing with Wanderers and Living City in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, let us know how you're going. And especially there's some battle reports on the channel you can check out for these sort of Wanderer themed Living City lists if you'd like to in the new edition of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. But if you're playing them, let us know how you've gone and what you've been doing in the comments below. Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to, you can come over and chat more with us here at Sinful Gaming and our fine little community over on Discord. You'll find a link to that Discord in the description of the video. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. And if you'd like to help support the channel via Patreon or YouTube members, you can do so by one of the links in the video's description once again. But a special shout out to all our patrons: Christian Weir, James, Soren, Chaos Spawn, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, and Dynat226. And another special shout out to our YouTube members: Greenridge Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zeop, Chris Wallace, Turo12, Vinny, Lock Lorick, Matt Mollin, Becca Kinski Groupie, and the Johnny84. And lastly, a definite special shout out first of all to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the background work for our Discord server, keeping everything there running smoothly, because I am completely computer illiterate. Thank you very much. But that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe again. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.